Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello listeners, and welcome to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you are new here, my name is Jordan Bonaparte, and in Keep Canada Weird, my pal Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore the more offbeat news stories that played out across Canada over the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on May 14th of 2024, we're going to hear why a Canadian Member of Parliament has publicly announced their boycott of Tim Hortons. We'll hear about the Newfoundland man who was arrested for assaulting a police officer with a block of cheese. We're going to search for Snowflake, the missing chicken, and we'll travel to Edmonton to hear about some wild dogs and the much wilder woman they bet. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport, it's an honor and a privilege to work with you on this important mission of keeping Canada weird. How are you, my friend?
I'm excellent. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm good. I got a big cup of tea here.
Oh, I really like that mug. Where'd you get that mug?
Yeah, it's cool. I think Costco, honestly.
Oh, okay. It looks like something that you painted yourself.
No, it's. I guess it's supposed to have that look, but I didn't raise this mug to get compliments on the mug. This is an important and special cup of tea. While having this cup of tea, I'm going to be recording with you the best episode of Keep Canada Weird that there has ever been, and I know I say that a lot. Tonight, I know it's true.
Yeah, you say it every week. You say that this is going to be the best episode ever more frequently than you go to Tim Hortons, which is very frequently.
Leave them out of this because we're going to get back to them shortly. No, I got a feeling when I'm putting it all together and the wheels start turning, I can feel when something special is about to happen. Between the stories we got tonight, between the listener contributed voice memos, as well as the messages from Keep Canada Weird correspondents, nothing could go wrong. You puking tonight would not ruin this show.
Oh, well, you just wait and see. I'm going to jam my fist down my throat and I'll show you.
Oh, God. Okay, well, it might get interesting. Before we get into it all, though, what's up? Anything going on down there?
Not much at all. Just working away. I've been doing a lot of painting at the house. And
did you go through that weird, picking out colors thing and having, a bunch of different shades of gray and all this stuff? Or are you just what's the cheapest color?
I was able to get 2 gallons of very good paint because the color in 1 gallon was slightly off from the color in the other gallon. So there was a bit of a mistake in the color matching. So it was only $20 for the 2 gallons.
So somebody's pickiness is your game.
Really didn't matter to me. So that worked out great.
Wow. Well, that's a fascinating story. Let's probably for good reason pass the mic on to some Keep Canada Weird correspondents and Army members. I'm assuming you want to start with voice memos. You usually do.
I always do, and I hope they're painting related tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to segue from paint to anything else.
Yeah. I just have a feeling that all of the listeners want to talk about painting.
No. Last week, we covered 2 stories of rat infestations, and that kicked up some thoughts and opinions from Keep Canada Weird listeners. Let's go over to Trevor. Remember we talked about, I think you mentioned it during the show, that Alberta is the one province in Canada that does not have rats. You said that in a part of the reason it doesn't have rats is because of the work Trevor is doing.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. This is your correspondent, Trevor, out here in Alberta. I'm calling about your May 7th podcast where you guys were talking about Alberta being rat-free. I am one of the people tasked with investigating and controlling rats across the province. All of the rural municipalities, most of them, have somebody tasked with that job. As well, provincial agriculture, ag staff, have staff tasked to patrol the Saskatchewan border to do intensive control over there, as that's our most likely place they'll come from. We don't worry about them coming from British Columbia because of the mountains. We don't worry about them coming from the north because the boreal forest is very poor habitat for them. So it's really just Saskatchewan and the U.S. border that we have to worry about. Yeah, we get a few reports every year. Most times it's just a muskrat or a gopher that has been misidentified, but they do find rats along that provincial border. And actually, right now in the city of Calgary, they're fighting a bit of an infestation in a couple warehouses, but they're very quickly taken care of, and they come down pretty hard on controlling them. There is no leeway for the rats in this province. So, yeah, just thought you guys might like to hear from one of the guys tasked with that. Yeah, thanks for the podcast. I love what you guys do. I came in right about the time you guys started a riot in Cape Breton, and that kept me around. It was so entertaining. So thank you, and take care.
We talk a lot about the animal uprising. Why is it that it took this long, over a year, before Trevor decides to tell us that he's actually like a Navy SEAL in the army uprising fighting for the humans? So this guy, according to his message, is literally on the front lines. When a rat is seen in Alberta, troops are deployed, and he is one of those troops. I think that's exciting.
But I'm wondering if he's making the whole situation worse for us around the country. You know, he's anchoring the animals. He's helping to essentially, obliterate the rat population from Alberta, and any rats that try to escape in there are obliterated immediately.
In no leeway. Like, they are not taking prisoners. If there's a rat there, and he said, like, sometimes we get calls about muskrats. I bet you they kill the muskrats too.
Just to be safe, yeah. Just to be safe.
Yeah.
There can be no questions asked. When the animals take us over, we can thank Trevor for it, I think.
Yeah. Let's move on. We got work to do here. We are going to keep Canada weird with a collection. We got a great collection of stories tonight. We're going to be hearing about Tim Hortons' new woke lids. We're going to hear about the Newfoundland cheese attack of 2024. We're going to ask the question, where is Snowflake, the chicken? And then we're going to hear the story of the wild dogs, but the much wilder victim in Edmonton. Where do you want to start with this?
Let's start with the chicken.
Why not? I guess I will say this is a sad story, but it involves a North Vancouver family that's offering a reward for the safe return of their family pet, their pet Snowflake, the 7-year-old chicken. This past Saturday night, just before 4 a.m., for reasons only Aaron Airport could possibly imagine, 2 young men with t-shirts wrapped around their faces snuck into a backyard chicken coop and walked away with Snowflake. Here's the story.
Using the light from their cell phone to see, in the pitch black at 3:24 in the morning Saturday, 2 young men tackle 7 latches just to break in.
It took them a full minute. Like, it's a very well secured coop.
Woken by the intrusion were the 4 chickens inside. Bewildered as the 2 strangers, t-shirts wrapped around their heads in a rather unconvincing effort to hide their appearance, suddenly reached in and took one of the birds away.
I've predator-proofed the coop against raccoons and everything else under the sun, but I never thought that I'd need to protect the girls from people.
Missing is 7-year-old Snowflake. There's a $200 reward for her safe return.
She hasn't laid an egg in like 5 years. Like, it's not about, do you make eggs?
In fact, none of these chickens are working chickens. They are seniors, retired if you will. They are quite simply household pets. That is why the owners are desperate to get Snowflake back.
Just like anybody would want a stolen cat or dog home. She's a family member.
Smith figures this was likely a bet or a dare, maybe a grad prank. Whatever the case, nobody heard the boys break in. But the theft has been reported to the police.
And they carried her out as she was flapping and squawking for her little life.
For now, they can only hope for her safe return. Perhaps Snowflake the chicken will reappear just as quickly and quietly as she vanished.
Like I said in the introduction to that, for reasons only Aaron Airport could possibly imagine. Why the hell would they do this? It seems to be, like they suggest in the video there, it may be a prank or a dare or just some really some new and interesting drugs would fuel the idea to let's jump that fence, get in that chicken coop and grab one of these things. What the hell's going on here?
Mm-hmm. I'm watching the video, and I guess the shirts around their face were the shirts that they were wearing because they're both shirtless.
I know, which just makes it even look stranger.
Yeah, and they're creeping in, so it's hard to tell. I mean, they look like thin, younger gentlemen.
Younger, but not like kids, though. This to me, it looks like
Certainly not 14 or 15-year-olds, but they look like they're probably 17 or 18.
I would say 17 to 21. That range there is what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, they're quite hairless too. So that's kind of, I don't know if that puts them in an age category, but they don't have hair on their chest or anything. I don't know if the police find that information useful, because I noticed.
But you should call in a tip.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you noticed on the chicken theft, but there's no hair on their chests. So you just have to go door to door and get young men to take their shirts off in front of you. And then if they have hair on their chest, then scratch them off the suspect list.
And just go through all of Vancouver.
It won't take that long, but then you'd have people maybe trying to put fake chest hair on their chests. I don't know.
Well, maybe that's the only reason why the police didn't come out and say like the suspects don't have hair on their chest, is because they want to keep that as like inside knowledge that only the perpetrator would know or whatever.
Perhaps, yeah. And
you'd actually make a good investigator.
Thank you. Yeah. Unfortunately, hairy chests are the only clue that I can pick up on. So no matter what the investigation is, I kind of look to see if I can see their chest and if it's hairy or not, and then I tap out. And I say, sorry, I've got nothing.
If they have a shirt on, you're like, can't solve this. I have nothing.
I can't see. Yeah, I don't see a little tuft of hair coming up the top of the shirt. I don't see anything.
Yeah, there's no leads.
Yeah, the winter time, I'm completely useless because everyone has a winter jacket on. So I don't know exactly. I mean, they took one chicken.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't take the others. There's two of them. Two guys.
Yeah, two guys take one chicken, and as they walk out of the coop, the chicken's flipping out too. I felt terrible for
I know, yeah.
flapping its wings, and they say the owner said, these chickens are seniors; they don't lay eggs. I can't imagine someone would steal a chicken, being like, "I'm going to take that chicken and get some eggs from it." And I also can't imagine someone would be like, "I'm going to take that chicken and like kill it and make chicken breasts or whatever with it."
Fingers.
It would be so much work.
It would be too much work. Yeah. And fast food restaurants are still reasonably cheap. So
yeah,
it would certainly make more sense in every fashion to just go to Wendy's and eat their chicken fingers. But I mean, they didn't know, obviously, these hairless thieves, they didn't know that the chickens were elderly and were no longer functioning as egg layers, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'm not from an egg community.
Yeah, eggs.
I don't like to think that they did anything with the chicken, anything bad. Like if it was a prank, I don't think they took it for food or for eggs. Two 18-year-old hairless young men aren't going to take like a chicken for agricultural reasons. I'm sure of that. If it was a prank, what would they do? Just like throw it in the woods or something and be like just run wild chicken?
Well, if it was a dare, like if maybe they have a list, like a scavenger hunt of things they have to steal, and then they're just going down the list, and one is a backyard chicken, and that's what they did.
Wow,
but
what a crazy list.
Yeah, but again, they wouldn't know that these chickens are seniors and can't lay eggs, so maybe it is the eggs. But if they're very hairless young men, like we can see in the video, maybe they want the feathers. Maybe they want the feathers in this whole thing. It's like we can't grow chest hair. We're freezing in the wintertime. Our shirts are on our face, and we haven't figured out how to use that properly yet.
That technology, yeah.
No, yeah. So we need something to keep our bodies, our hairless
torsos,
young bodies, yeah, and upper chests and arms.
We're not going to solve this one. I hope Snowflake's okay, and I hope this is just like a prank or something, and maybe they were just keeping it in their backyard, and by the time that this episode airs, they'll have returned Snowflake for the $200 reward. I will say, if I'm going to up that reward, if anyone listening has information that could lead to the safe return of Snowflake and are able to get these young men on the show, I will add another $200 to the reward. So you can get $400 if you get Snowflake back and get the perpetrators to come on Keep Canada Weird and answer a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
This was a bit of a crime story. Let's move on. Let's jump right into another weird Canadian crime story that played out over the last week. Do you like cheese?
Oh, God, who doesn't like cheese?
I'm not going to say Stacy doesn't like cheese. She might, but she doesn't get into that in her voicemail. The next story we're going to get into comes to us directly from a Keep Canada Weird correspondent named Stacy. Here was the voicemail she sent.
Hello, Jordan and handsome Aaron Airport. This is Stacy phoning in from Newfoundland. I wanted to make you aware of an article that came up on our local news of an irate man who assaulted a police officer with a block of cheese. Love the Nighttime podcast and Keep Canada Weird, and can't wait to listen to your next episode. Thanks so much.
Before we address the story, I will tell Stacy that she's fortunate because I just received a batch of Keep Canada Weird correspondent badges. And Stacy, if you email me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, I will send a badge so you can show your friends and loved ones what kind of important work you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That said, let's get into it here. So when I hear a story about an irate man in Newfoundland with cheese, I stop what I'm doing and get into it. Sadly, I couldn't find too much information except for a couple news articles and a police, and they call it the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, a police kind of press release. I have a CTV article in front of me. This seems to be the most in-depth telling of the Newfoundland cheese attack. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read that.
Let's get into it.
Okay, I'm bringing it up right now. Okay, police in Newfoundland say patrol officers were assaulted Thursday by a very irate male wielding a block of cheese. A media release from the Royal Newfoundland, what is this?
Constabulary?
Constabulary?
That's what their police force is called. Yeah, it's ridiculous, eh?
yeah, constabulary. Someone correct us and berate us on that one. So, a media release from the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary says the incident occurred when officers responded to a disturbance at a residence in central St. John's, Newfoundland at around 9 p.m. The release says they encountered an angry man who then assaulted the officers with a block of cheese. Police say they arrested the man and charged him with assault, assaulting a police officer, and breach of probation. He was taken to a lockup facility in St. John's to await a court appearance. The RNC did not say if the officers were injured or what kind of cheese.
Well, I'm guessing it was a hard cheese.
Oh, I assume, yeah. Like an old cheddar?
Yeah, I guess. What would be a block of cheese that you could actually assault someone with? Like most people wouldn't have anything larger than like something you'd shred over pasta or cut up for to serve at with some host guests or something. But that's not the kind of thing you would assault someone with.
But you can
what
buy
is this guy
like
doing?
a fairly dense and heavy piece of cheese at the grocery store.
Oh yeah, but you can buy big chunks of cheese, but you wouldn't have it on you when you're in the middle of like a situation that involves police.
But
like, unless this guy goes,
we don't know what the situation really was. We don't have all those details. Maybe the situation brought the police into his kitchen and he was making nachos.
Well, that would be a softer cheese.
Yeah, he melted that cheese, but he cut it from this big, heavy block of cheese. And then the altercation with the police occurred, and he had the big block of cheese there, and he wailed on them with it.
You could do just as much damage with like the actually cracked like nacho chips. Do you ever bite one? It kind of goes the wrong way, and you get kind of like stabbed by like a dry nacho chip in your mouth? Has that ever happened?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Have you ever been attacked by a block of cheese?
I'm sure I've probably been hit with cheese before.
I don't go to Newfoundland often, and this is why. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I imagine happens in Newfoundland.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happened at least once. So we know, and I don't know of any police officers in this province that have gotten attacked by dangerous blocks of cheese.
No. It takes a lot of guts, not a lot of guts, a lot of like stupidity and lack of anger management, I guess, to attack a police officer. But to do it with cheese is pretty ridiculous. I wonder if the judge will give him a break due to the absurdity of what he's done. Like, because it is assault with a weapon, assuming it was a hard cheese. Would they be harder on you, or would they consider that it was cheese versus if you threw, I don't know, a shoe at them versus if you threw a large rock at a cop, let's say? Like, I just wonder if this guy's going to get a pass because it's so ridiculous.
Because it's cheese, but it's the intent with the cheese that they're going to be looking at. What was, he was trying to assault and injure the police officers with the cheese. It doesn't matter if he selected perhaps not the best weapon to use to assault the police officer. The fact of the matter is that he tried to assault a police officer, and unfortunately, yeah, he used cheese and probably did little to no damage. But
I can't imagine he could do damage with it. But
I mean, I'm reading online that the hardest cheese in the world, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's called Chirpy. CHHURPI is considered to be the hardest cheese in the world, a traditional product prepared by pastoralists in the highlands of the eastern Himalayas. Chirpy is a protein-rich cheese with a smoky flavor and hard consistency that gradually becomes chewer the longer you gnaw on it.
Oh, that's kind of sounds gross. Like gum almost of cheese. You just have to keep chewing on it.
You have to work away at it before it softens up, just like you, I find.
Oh?
Yeah. You have this tough exterior that can be very difficult to break through, but the more someone gnaws at you, the softer you get and the more you open up.
Yeah, I am intimidating at first, for sure.
Yeah,
physically.
That's what they say at the flea markets in Value Village.
Yeah, when I'm trying to get a deal.
Yeah, when you're haggling with the cashier at Value Village.
This case is an interesting one. Hopefully it wasn't Chirpy, but this guy, I think when it goes to court, what will happen is the judge will just refuse to mention what the weapon is and just keep it at like assault with a weapon. Because if they mention it as a block of cheese, like the courtroom is just going to like erupt into laughter.
Yeah, it'll be an entertaining trial to go to.
And well, it would, both because of what this person did, and you can be sure that the Newfoundlander who attacked a cop with cheese is going to be a wild person in a court situation. I would like to sit in on that, but I'm not going. I refuse to go to Newfoundland.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's I
got to take the ferry over there, and I'm not doing that.
No. Let's move on to a story that I think we were onto it from the very beginning, but it is finally getting the exposure that it deserves. We're going to be talking about Tim Hortons, and we got kind of a duo of stories related to Tim Hortons. We have a story that was in the news as well as a voicemail related to Tim Hortons. Let's check in with a listener named Laura from Atlanta who's letting us know about Tim Hortons popping up in a very unlikely spot.
Hello, Jordan and Aaron Airport. This is Laura from the United States. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I wanted to call in and let you know that I recently learned about a nightclub that is in Atlanta. It's attached to a BP gas station and a Tim Hortons. So I think maybe you should make a trip down to Atlanta, Georgia, and maybe check out the Tim Hortons nightlife here. I'm not really sure what goes on there, but I guess we could find out together.
There's I wouldn't say a viral video, but there's a video on TikTok of someone in Atlanta who is in the situation where it's a gas station that's kind of connected to a large, busy nightclub, all in kind of one kind of courtyard area. But just smacked in the center of this whole situation is a small Tim Hortons coffee shop. I'll play a little bit of the TikTok video so we can see this place. Here it comes.
Okay.
On today's episode of Only in Atlanta, come with me to the club at the gas station. Yes, you heard it right. We went to a club that is at the dang gas station, y'all. Like, these people, if you wanted to get gas in here, you really couldn't. And they're shooting a music video at the gas station at the club. If someone said, meet me at the club, and they gave me the address, and I pulled up at the gas station, I would be floored. There's also a Tim Hortons cafe in the same, like, no zoning laws. I don't know. Only in Atlanta, though. Atlanta is not a real place. Look.
So there you have it. In Atlanta, for some reason, Tim Hortons has opened a coffee shop connected to a bar, connected to a gas station. Laura wants us to go down there and have some with her. Is this what it takes to bring you and I to Atlanta, or is this a hard pass?
Oh, it's a hard pass for sure, but it seems like it's such a sneaky place for a Tim Hortons to be in. Like they're really trying to sneak into the United States, and they want to go unnoticed. So they're kind of tucked into this little corner where there's a gas station and then a huge nightclub. But do you notice in the video, it says Tim Hortons, and underneath it's like cafe and bakery or something like that?
Yeah, well, I guess maybe people don't know the brand Tim Hortons. So in the US, they kind of need to lean on the fact that, you know, it's a cafe, we make food. Calling themselves a bakery is a bit of a stretch, but...
Oh, it's a massive stretch because they don't bake anything.
I saw a tweet today by Andy Bowers in Halifax, and the tweet said, the only thing freshly baked at Tim Hortons is the fella that just gave you a tea instead of a coffee.
Yeah. It's Tim Hortons just trying to pull the wool over the eyes of customers who know nothing about Tim Hortons.
And maybe they think the gas station bar is like the distraction to just sneak in there. It's like,
well, I'm sure
you got all these flashing lights. Come on in, and it's normal here.
Well, one thing that I do know about nightlife is that if you drink a lot of alcohol, you do get very hungry. And the same goes for huffing gas. You know, if you huff a lot of gas, and that's how you like to do, you know, that's how you like to spend your Friday night. Yeah. After a long work week, then you get really hungry after that too. And then there's a Tim Hortons right there, and they're calling themselves a bakery. So I think the state of mind of all of the people in the general vicinity of this Tim Hortons leads me to believe that Tim Hortons knows that none of them are going to care about the quality or even notice the quality of the Tim Hortons product.
They're kind of like riding the sinking ship and serving their crap along the way on society's race to the bottom. And let that be the segue to the real reason we're getting into Tim Hortons here. Laura, thank you for bringing the topic of Tim Hortons to our desktop of conversation here. But Tim Hortons is found themselves in a difficult and interesting position here in Canada. In the past, we covered the controversy that surrounded Tim Hortons using Prince Edward Island as a testing ground for their paper lids. And both of us speculated as to why Tim Hortons would choose the people of PEI to use as lab rats. Well, as anyone else out there following Tim Hortons news will tell you, they're now testing their lids in a much more sensitive area than Prince Edward Island. They're doing it in our nation's capital, Ottawa, Ontario. And the tests are not going well with some of our country's power brokers. A social media post by Conservative MP, Member of Parliament, Leanne Road, doesn't pull any punches. In her tweet, she says, Tim Hortons used to be for the little guy who wanted a quick coffee and a bite. Now they're making pizzas and crappy paper lids. I'm done with Tim Hortons until they stop trying to push these woke paper lids that dissolve in your mouth. And she attached a video where she goes into much greater detail. Sadly, she doesn't use the word woke in the video, but she does explain what she's so unhappy about with Tim Hortons. And this is one of those videos that ends with like, the political party's logo coming on the screen. So it's kind of like a political statement. Here's the video that Leanne Rhodes shared in an attempt to take down Tim Hortons. Here it comes.
Well, Canada, this is the last straw. I mean, lid. Really, Tim Hortons? Paper lids that disintegrate in your mouth? Come on. This is just another example of something trying to help the environment when it's actually going to have the opposite effect. If we have a plastic lid, at least it's recyclable. But this, disintegrating in your mouth as you're trying to drink your coffee? No thanks. I don't know about you, but until Tim Hortons gets rid of this paper lid, I'm done with Tim Hortons.
I'm all for dunking on Tim Hortons, but that's not it.
This is not someone we want representing our anti-Tim Hortons campaign.
Movement,
battle, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
She is the worst person that you want on your team.
Yeah, I definitely don't. She is not a member of what we are doing here. She's not a part of our movement. This is the equivalent of like you and I and the listeners of Keep Canada Weird are protesting, and these riffraff troublemakers come and infiltrate our protest and make us all look bad, where we're doing important, valuable work. What she's doing is laughable and ridiculous. To refer to them as woke lids is crazy, for one. Secondly, to be like, it's just another example of like trying to do something good for the environment when it actually is going to make it worse. But she didn't back that up. How is that going to make it worse for the environment? Because if let's say the lids ruin coffee, that the environment doesn't care about that. So that's irrelevant. No. But they're still biodegradable. So what's her beef with these lids other than they dissolve in your mouth? To bring up the environment?
Apparently this woman is sitting at home with her blue bags, putting in plastic Tim Hortons lids and filling them up like it's... Do you know anybody who recycles a plastic coffee lid?
I do.
Do you?
Yes. When I take my coffee cup, like if I'm at home with a coffee, I take the top off and I throw that in the recyclables.
Okay. I've never seen anybody else do that in my life.
Oh, geez, I do it. My big beef with this, I think, other than just the whole tone of that video and calling them woke lids, a member of parliament in Canada calling for like issuing a video to be like, I'm not going to shop at Tim Hortons anymore until they get rid of these lids. Is there not bigger issues that are like leave the Tim Hortons battle to us on Keep Canada Weird, and we can work with the people and get that taken care of?
Yeah.
I think just to have a conservative MP focused on this, I think is ridiculous.
I think her efforts will be best spent towards the housing crisis, the healthcare crisis, a number of, dozens and dozens and hundreds of issues that we could line up in front of the lids of Tim Hortons. But
yeah,
I mean, she sounds like someone who was probably kicked out of a Tim Hortons and then now has found her opportunity for revenge in these lids. And now she can go public and try to take down Tim Hortons to get back at them for kicking her out of their restaurants.
You don't know who I am. I'm a conservative MP. I will crush you and have you shut down when I go on social media. And this is it.
Yeah.
We've seen videos like that. I think there's one, there was a video I saw where it was like a traffic stop and it was like a judge who like threatened everybody's jobs and everything and said like, I'm a judge. Don't you know who I am? People, and I don't know. This whole thing just bothers me.
All you have to do is hear this woman's voice to know that she's the person at a restaurant that everybody's embarrassed to be sitting with, because she's complaining about every little thing. She doesn't tip the wait staff.
If anything makes me support Tim Hortons' new lids, it's this.
I want them across the country now, just to spite this woman.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's move on to our final story of the night. This one's good. This involves animals. I don't believe it's It's an act of the animal uprising. I called this section of the episode Wild Dogs and Their Wilder Victim. This is going to be a good one. 2 pit bulls and their caregiver brought chaos to the Edmonton neighborhood of Meadowlark Park. In the end, 5 people were left with injuries, but only one of them, Lorena Barkwell, is the star of this episode of Keep Canada Weird. Listen along to the news clip and you'll see why.
Good evening. A man is facing an assault charge. A pair of pit bulls have been seized and 5 people are recovering from injuries suffered in an attack by the dogs yesterday. As Nav Sanga shows us with security video of the attack, people walking by had no idea of the danger they were about to face.
2 teens walk together in West Edmonton. It's Thursday afternoon and school is off early, but the unsuspecting duo is about to have their after-school plans nipped by 2 pit bulls.
I got 2 young people running around this truck, 2 dogs chasing them.
One of the teens fights back with a jacket. Then a man appears to attempt to wrangle the 2 pit bulls before he lands what looks like a punch on the teen. With the dog still running loose, the teens get into the back of a pickup. Police say a 57-year-old man has been charged with assault. They say he doesn't own the dogs, but was looking after them at the time of the attack.
I came up and the dogs came around me, put my arms out, and I'm like, back it down.
Lorena Barkwell lives in the area. She says she came out when she heard the commotion. When she tried to help calm the dogs down, she was bitten.
This is the first time I've seen them out, and boy, did they make their mark.
After biting Barkwell, the dogs run across the street and appear to lunge at 2 other people. Police say in total 5 people were injured, 4 of them had to go to hospital. The city says the 2 dogs in this latest attack have no previous history of complaints. They're currently in the care of animal control. As for Barkwell, she says there should only be one outcome.
Those dogs, the gray one that bit me, down. They have to go night-night.
Do you see why I call it the Wild Dogs and Their Wilder Victim? Lorena Barkwell is vicious when it comes to someone messing with her.
And what's her last name again?
Barkwell.
Is it Barkwell?
It is Barkwell.
Barkwell?
Yeah.
No.
I think her name should be Bitewell because I think her bite is worse than her bark because in the video she's very calm, like those dogs. It's the first time I saw them out and they left their mark. Which is it's like a horror movie statement. And then there's another part where she's like, I went to the dogs and I was just like, whoa. Like she just tried to shut it down. And then to end the news clip with like the dogs, especially that gray one that bit me, they got to go night night.
Yeah. And she says, down.
They got to go down.
Yeah. There's only one word for what's going to happen to them. Down.
Night night.
Or whatever she said.
She was amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if in a good way. I'm still kind of stuck on the fact that her last name is Barkwell. It's like this moment in time, this one small story about 2 dogs who were biting neighbors and things like that. This is her life's peak.
This is her moment.
This is her whole family history. Like this is probably, multiple generations of Barkwells leading up to this one moment where there's a story about dogs in the news and she's being interviewed.
If Lorena Barkwell was willing to come on the show and talk about this, would this be someone you'd want to ask? Would you want to ask her about her name? Would you want to ask her about, just say like cool one-liners?
I just want to focus on her last name and get to know her family history a bit more. I'd like her to do maybe 23andMe or some kind of a DNA test and trace the Barkwells as far back as possible and see where this comes from. But I would be worried about having her on the show because if we disagree with her, she'd want to put us down.
Night night.
Night, Jordan and Aaron.
She's something, man. I know. I can tell when I meet someone right away. I can tell when they're a character. And for her, it's like the second I saw her on the screen, I'm like, okay, here's a real one. I think
dogs have probably been waiting for years to bite this woman. And they had someone babysitting them that wasn't quite watching them, left the door open. And then they're like, this is our chance.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Well,
bite
and then
her.
they had to get her out of the house, so they attack those kids. The kids start
Yeah,
screaming.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And she comes
they
out
lure
just
her out with the kids, of course, and then she comes, and then like there she is, Barkwell. This is your moment.
I love that story because I like her so much. You know what? I'm going to reach out to her if I can figure it out because I think there's something there. Let's start wrapping up this episode though. But before we do, you want to end on a what would you call it? Do you want to end with a palate cleanser? I found a story that's very soft, heartwarming. I think you might like it.
Yeah.
Do you need
yeah.
a
Let's
freshening up?
let's head out on the episode with something flowery and warm and sweet.
Yeah, well, here it comes. Over the last several months, we've been following the story of the hockey card Holy Grail. It started off with the discovery in a Regina basement, progressed into an auction with a winning bid around $5 million Canadian, then devolved into a story of buyer's remorse, and ended with a desperate-sounding man confessing his weird connection to a woman he went to elementary school with. Well, oddly enough, there's another love story that's in the news that has a few similar concepts. Let's together cringe along to a BC woman's lifelong search for her soulmate.
Oh, she was just so full of life.
As Karen Harrison looks back at pictures from her past, she recalls her perennial birthday wish.
I would blow out the candles and I'd wish for the same thing. I just need to find the love of my life.
It happened every year from the age of 6 until the day she turned 50, when she decided to stop wishing.
I think I had started to lose hope.
Well, Karen was grateful to have finally found comfort in the life she'd created for herself.
To me, it was a bit of sadness around it.
But then, a month later, Karen found herself looking through old yearbooks after receiving a friend request from an old classmate, John Evers.
We were both always very shy, and I could never approach her.
John and Karen were in grade 1 through grade 12 together, and never really friends, until decades later, Facebook suggested otherwise.
I said, "Do you remember me?" And she said, "Of course." It was, a little heart skipped a beat.
The connection was instant, the conversation effortless, and despite living provinces apart, Karen and John couldn't have felt closer, until, a couple months later, they finally met again. In person.
She walked in the room and it was
like, oh, my soul has finally found its other half.
I found someone who understood me.
Over the next year, they moved to the same city. John proposed, Karen said yes, and then they both said, "I do," 47 years after they first met.
Oh, my soul has finally found its other half. Oh, my soul has finally found its other half. Yes. Oh, yes.
Stop.
Welcome back into my life. My other half is here. Finally, I've waited for you 50 years. The problem is I've been dead for 45 years. But now you're here and I'm here. I am a ghost, but you're alive. And we can finally be together because I'll kill you, then you'll be a ghost and we'll be a ghost together. Yes, my other half is here. We hear a lot about her romantic past.
How did you just come out of that quick? Did that even happen?
Well, she talks about how she never found love her entire life.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear anything about Johnny's romantic history, do we?
I was up at night on Facebook and I saw like the girl I went to school with. We started writing.
The reason my last wife left me is because I messaged you.
Oh man, it's yeah. People in the chat are accusing you of just being jealous that you didn't get a message from her.
From her? Or from him?
Or either.
When's my other half going to send me a Facebook message?
I'm glad they found love, even if it's kind of cringy. Is that true? Was it cringy? I thought it was.
It gave me it gave me feelings, but I don't really understand those feelings quite yet. So I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, I guess you got a lot of thinking to do, and it's probably best that you're alone for a little while tonight to just think about this. So let's start wrapping this up. We've been through a lot tonight. I can't imagine getting into more than the woke lids, the cheese attack, the search for Snowflake the chicken, and then wild dogs. We've had a busy night. Any listeners who have comments about anything we talked about tonight, we want to hear from you. I have a whole stack of these Keep Canada Weird badges that I would love to send out. Send a voice memo by going to nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And when you hear your voice on the show, email me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll have one out to you shortly thereafter. Aaron, anything you want to say to these people before we hit stop on this whole thing?
I just want to say that if in 50 years you get a Facebook message from me, you damn well better respond, because I'm looking for love.
Hell yeah. Handsome Aaron Airport, until that Facebook message comes, keep a solid block of cheese in your pocket, because you never know when you're going to get into trouble.
And Jordan, until next time, you better leave your shirt on, because the police might see that you don't have any chest hair.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird, but let us also call out to you for even greater support in this. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, we want to hear about it. As well, if you have any thoughts, opinions, or feedback on anything we covered tonight, we want to hear about that as well. The best way to reach us is by sending a voice memo using the built-in tool at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We're excited to hear from you. Now, before we part here, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. And lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Candace, Catherine, and Kaylee, thank you for your generous support. And for anyone else who'd like to help the show out, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money funds the creation of the new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, get them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. That sounds like something you're interested in. You can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you can't go premium, you can still support the show by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your help in growing this is very much appreciated. Now until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.